We tend to hold a negative attitude towards suicide since it seems like a disrespect of life. But today, my presentation is about Dr. Jack Kevorkian, who was a pioneer in the course of physician-assisted suicide and euthanasia in the United States. I will analyze some representative metaphors in the movie You Don't Know Jack. This movie is based on the life of Dr. Kevorkian, as the first doctor in the United States to publicly commit physician-assisted suicide on a large scale for his patients. Dr. Kevorkian was a controversial figure because he was both a benevolent person who helped some patients out of their suffering and was seen as the murderer who took their life. Medical metaphors do not only apply to the medical field. Some popular medical metaphors have become part of the collective will and enter our social culture. They play an important role on health communication that can greatly influence medicine and communication between physicians and patients. Through a rhetorical analysis of the metaphor in this film, I hope to find how metaphors in this movie rhetorically construct Dr. Kevorkian. Also, because he is a representative figure in the course of euthanasia in the United States, analyzing him will also help us to further explore that in the United States. I will begin with the general public perception of death and then provide an introduction to the United States laws regarding physician-assisted suicide. I will then select 3 metaphors for detailed analysis and conclude with practical question and conclusion. Let's look death in the eye. Death has never been a popular topic. Hippocratic oath requires that physicians should not give lethal drugs to patients, even if the patient has volunteered for them. Most of the time, people also choose to avoid this topic because no one wants to suffer the pain of separation. But before we dive into the business of physician-assisted suicide, we must put the matter of death itself in its proper context. We don't seek it, but we don't need to avoid it either. At the end of each person's life, we should face it with a more open and inclusive attitude. Let's see the laws in the United States. In the United States, different states have different laws, which complicate the legal situation of physician-assisted suicide. Most states treat any form of physician-assisted suicide as illegal, and the Supreme Court itself has taken a really negative attitude towards it, refusing to hear Dr. Kevorkian's appeal. Let's see the first metaphor. Dr. Kevorkian's most popular metaphor is Dr. Death, which sounds like an extremely negative and dark metaphor, and the director emphasizes it in the film, which creates a scary image of Dr. Kevorkian in the minds of the audience. Most of Dr. Kevorkian's medical services are performed at night, with dim lighting and lots of details hidden in the shadow, adding a sense of horror. Darkness often symbolizes sin and terror, which allow the audience to associate the image of Dr. Kevorkian with them. The interview with the public presented in the film, some call him a hired hitman, bringing equipment in the middle of the night to carry out his mission. Others call him the worst serial killer the United States has never seen, with no mercy for life. Let's see the second metaphor, God. When we discuss the concept of God, we generally focus more on the meaning of creating life rather than taking it away. But the metaphor in this film seems to lean more towards the latter one, because Dr. Kevorkian helped many patients ending their lives. During Dr. Kevorkian's interview, the host asked him if he was playing God. Dr. Kevorkian replied very confidently, "So what?" He further explained that all doctors in fact play the role of God by using pills and providing treatment to prolong the lives of patients. Doctors intervene in the natural process and are demonstrating the use of divine power. But the metaphor of comparing oneself to God may influence doctors' behavior and may create a preserves doctor-patient power relation with too wide a gap, which is not advocated by modern medical cynics. Let's see the third metaphor, Frankenstein. When the interviewer asked Dr. Kevorkian how he felt about people seeing him as Frankenstein because of his dedication to the cause of organ donation and euthanasia, Dr. Kevorkian replied with confidence, "I would take that as a compliment." Dr. Frankenstein is the protagonist of an American horror novel who creates a terrifying monster. Dr. Kevorkian believed that all who had read the novel of Frankenstein would understand that he was a benevolent man and that it was the operation by the society that made the monster go bad. In Dr. Kevorkian's view, the socially marginalized Frankenstein and the monster he created are misunderstood, as he himself is not understood by the general public. Dr. Kevorkian connects his own experience to the Frankenstein story in a way that resonates extremely well. After this discussion, we reviewed 3 metaphors in the movie about Dr. Kevorkian. They are Dr. Death, God, and Frankenstein. All these 3 metaphors are closely related to Dr. Kevorkian's experience and give us a better understanding of physician-assisted suicide from a physician's perspective. Now let's put it in the practice. In this article, health communication metaphors play a role not only in how patients confront physician-assisted suicide and euthanasia, but also enlighten us about the impact these particular metaphors can have on physicians' experience. Through my research, I hope that more people will be willing to join the conversation about death. Although it is difficult to give a perfect response to the question of death, the more we talk about it, the more we care. Maybe someday in the future, we will stop fearing death and enjoying the process of life. Thanks for your listening.